you thought Sonic 06 drove the Sonic series down a path that not even I could follow, if I had better standards back then Sonic Boom would drag the series down even further. Though I didn't give Rise of Lyric a chance after I saw the release date change, Shattered Crystal, at the barest minimum, left some positive impression upon game's end, and the cartoon was doing well during its initial run, even during the hiatus after 8 episodes aired. 2014 was the final year from my high school days, and when February rolled around that year, the first trailer for Sonic Boom was released, and it looked promising. Sonic and friends were back together after what felt like a lifetime, and they would make use of their abilities. Sure, the redesigns were questionable at best and hated at least, but I think it complemented characters in their own unique way. Sonic is the adventurer, so decking him out with a scarf and sports tail was fitting for someone who's very athletic and adventurous. Tails is a mechanical genius, so him wearing goggles and a tool strap was fitting for him. Knuckles has his upper body strength, which makes him more bulky than usual, and Amy has received a much better redesign compared to the rest of the cast. This outfit is much better compared to her usual red dress. No more penny shots, thank God. And Eggman doesn't look that bad either. Really brings out the evil genius side of him. So after the Sonic Boom initial trailer release, Sanrio Games had their own Sonic Boom game to reveal to the public. This one was made for the 3DS with a 2D approach, a new character to play with, and some exploration. An exploration Sonic game. The last one was Tails' Adventure for the Game Gear, so Sonic going through what people call a Metroidvania was intriguing. And then came the announcement of the cartoon that would air on Cartoon Network on Saturday mornings. 2014 was the end of Saturday morning cartoons. 4Kids, called Vortex at the time, would eventually close down in October 2014, so Sonic Boom airing at 7 in the morning on Saturdays would bring back the feeling of watching cartoons in the beginning of the weekend. That is, if you could wake up at 7 in the morning. As the months continued in 2014, both Rise of Lyric and Shattered Crystal were showcased at E3, with Rise of Lyric receiving negative reception. Shattered Crystal was considered the best of the duo. Then came the Sonic Boom event, where voice actors of the show would partake in an onstage voice read of some of the cartoon's dialogue. Additional trailers were shown, and participants partook in Sonic festivities. All of this would lead up to November 2014, where Sonic Boom would be released publicly. Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric was scheduled to be released on November 18, 2014, with Shattered Crystal and the cartoon releasing on the 11th. But Sega wanted Rise of Lyric to be released alongside both Shattered Crystal and the cartoon, so the game was released a week early. The end result was Rise of Lyric damaging an already damaged brand, with Shattered Crystal performing slightly better and the cartoon receiving the most positive criticism. The moment I saw the release date change for Rise of Lyric, I knew the game was going to suck. And I wasn't wrong. This was not only the worst Sonic game ever made, but this was also the worst selling Sonic game ever made, and Shattered Crystal did not perform any better sales wise. Even Sega publicly announced that both games sold poorly, with Rise of Lyric being the poorly sold game in the franchise's history. I've had some hands-on experiences with Rise of Lyric with a buddy of mine, but Shattered Crystal would be the game that I would not only devote the most time on, but actually complete. With that in mind, I can say with confidence that Sonic Boom, at least the video games, did not do the franchise any justices. In fact, it only does more harm than good. However, Sonic Boom could have been good if Sega was more considerate with the game studio that made Rise of Lyric. It didn't set up a deadline to have the game released before it was ready. So what exactly went wrong with Sonic Boom? Similar to past Sonic games, Sega wanted Sonic to appeal to more audiences and fans alike, so they decided to split the universe in two. The original Sonic series would continue to be butchered by Sonic Team, while Sonic Boom would be worked on by Western developers. Those Western developers, one of which was former art director Bob Rafi from Naughty Dog, were known as Big Red Button. Sega saw potential in Bob Rafi's previous works and hired Big Red Button to work on a Sonic game with an emphasis on adventure, action, and story. However, the team had to work with certain embargoes, though Big Red Button had been given creative freedom. According to Bob Rafi, "We were given a lot more freedom than I anticipated right from the start. We worked closely with Sega to determine what worked, and more importantly, what was off limits." After going through multiple design concepts, the team settled with the final look that debuted on the teaser image. Originally, Sonic Boom was titled Sonic Synergy during the original builds. The game would not only have cooperative play, which Sonic Boom would have by default, but also have other features that were eventually scrapped, such as using a tether-like device to solve puzzles, manipulate certain objects, and use it on Sonic while he runs on water. There was also a plane to ride around as well. After a year of constructing the world and gameplay of Sonic Boom, Big Red Button presented their work to Sega of Japan for approval. Originally, the game was set for release on the consoles released during that time period, such as the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. To compensate for the visuals that Big Red Button produced, CryEngine 3 was chosen. As for the work that Big Red Button presented to Sega of Japan and eventually Takashi Iizuka, they saw this as an alienation of what the Sonic series stood for, despite the fact that Sonic Boom is a spin-off series. The character designs were questioned. They wanted more speed sections. The ability to swim underwater was removed, which honestly would have worked considering the 3D Sonic games treats water as an instant death hazard. A character known as Cliff was changed from being an inventor to an archaeologist, and the storyline was heavily altered. Now, this is speculation on my part, but in the initial trailer, Knuckles would have discovered that the new land that Sonic and fans would traverse through was an old echidna landscape. After all, there are echidna statues left intact. Plus, you have Knuckles saying,
"This is paradise,"
indicating that this land would have been an old echidna paradise. This storyline was scrapped in favor for a storyline where Sonic and friends battled against a villain that sought to eradicate organic life in favor for machinery and technology. Sonic's strategy would later be named Sonic Boom, that served as an adaptation to the cartoon that was being developed by Redo Productions, which afterwards was changed to Janao Productions, that was changed to Timon Animation, that was changed to the now known Technicolor Animation Production, which merged with Macross Animation. Talk about an identity crisis. Although the cartoon received positive criticism, communication between Redo Productions and Big Red Button was non-existent. This caused the development of the cartoon to go directionless, but production went as accordingly, with the script writing, design processing, storyboarding, animation, lighting, rendering, compositing, and of course, the voice acting. So production, though they had no communication with Big Red Button, went well. The same could not be said for Rise of Lyric, as Sega at the last minute told Big Red Button that Rise of Lyric would be an exclusive Wii U title after Sega made an exclusivity deal with Nintendo to add 3 Sonic games on their console. This resulted in Mario and Sonic Sochi 2014, Sonic Lost World, and Sonic Boom. Not only was the Wii U struggling to reach satisfying sales numbers, the console did not support CryEngine 3, so the visuals suffered a massive downgrade. Big Red Button sought assistance with Crytek and Nintendo to port Rise of Lyric over to the Wii U. Combining all the development issues in addition to the 2014 deadline, Big Red Button worked long hours or left the company. After months of crunching and layoffs, the game was released alongside Sanrio Games' Shattered Crystal and was met with overwhelmingly negative reception. For Rise of Lyric, the negative reception was due to constant dialogue, simple speed sections and combat, and of course, the glitches. Whether it's phasing through the geometry, jumping infinitely, or clipping through a bounce pad.
Of course. Bounce pad.
The game would later be patched with a 1 GB size patch due to the game's poor optimization. After the poor performance of Rise of Lyric, Bob Raffi stated in an interview with Polygon, "We knew that historically Sonic games would have been treated very poorly by the press, and we knew that there was going to be some of that. But I was kind of taken aback by just the kind of hate that was being poured out. It was very disheartening. You know, you work your ass off for 3 years, you crunch like mad, you go through hell and back to try and make a ship date, and I've never experienced like hate mail in the past, and I'm getting people telling me I ruined their childhood. Alright, sorry about that. You know, I did the best I could. Having gone through the process of putting your heart and soul into a game that's not well received, how do you bounce back from that?" The story behind Shattered Crystal is rather vague. Sanrio Games worked on Shattered Crystal under the supervision of Sonic Team and Takashi Iizuka. They wanted to adapt the new world while maintaining the look and feel of Sonic, especially with new gameplay mechanics, multiple characters with their signature abilities, and the new character Six the Badger. What holds the game back is the progression. Similar to Sonic Unleashed and Sonic Lost World, fighting collectibles are required for game progression. Without the required quantity of collectibles the game demands, no new levels can be played. Besides this strict progression, the gameplay was mostly solid. Sonic has his air dash, Tails can use his devices, Knuckles can bury underground, and Sticks has her boomerang. Even though Shattered Crystal was considered the better of the Boom games, sales-wise, it did just as poorly as Rise of Lyric did. Besides the cartoon running for 2 seasons, the Sonic Boom brand performed disastrously. – 2015 was the worst year for Sega. 300 employees were laid off. They suffered a 42% loss in stocks and sales. There was talk of racism in the company. Sonic was shifting to PC and mobile gaming in order to stable profits. Hajime Satomi apologized, saying Sega betrayed the fans' trust for 10 years. And of course, another Sonic Boom game was announced titled Sonic Boom Fire and Ice. This title was similar to Shadow Crystal, but with Amy being playable, less exploration, better progression, and a fire and ice gimmick to boot. Sega was not impressed with the performance of Rise of Laird, so it was decided that Fire and Ice will only be a 3DS exclusive. I have no experience about this game, nor do I know about its development or how they came to the idea of Sonic characters using fire and ice. And to be honest, I'm fine with that. After the announcement of Fire and Ice, it became clear to me that Sonic Team and Sega doesn't know how to run this series, and it took until they outsourced for Sonic Mania to have a good game again. Between 2014 and 2016, the Sonic franchise went through a massive beatdown, all because of lack of communication, contradictions, and bad business decisions. 2017 was not any better with the release of the most pointless Sonic game ever made, Sonic Forces. It wasn't until the release of Forces that I began to notice that something was very wrong with the Sonic franchise. With poor decision making and leadership, not using everything at their disposal, and creating inferior designs and characters. This led me to conducting research and discovering just how mismanaged and poorly handled this series really is. The focus on profits instead of releasing quality products, poor decision making, and favoring new inferior characters instead of making good use of the old beloved ones. All of these decisions led to the Sonic series to where it is now, and Sonic Boom is definitely no exception. There has been no word from Big Red Button after Sonic Boom's release, aside from some cowboy VR game and their concept of Crash Bandicoot titled Crash and Burn. As for the Sonic Boom cartoon, it was confirmed that the cartoon would not return for a third season. Sonic Boom was finished. Sonic Boom is a perfect example of what happens when a long-running series is handled poorly with repeated bad decisions and lack of care and creative freedom. Sonic Boom started as a spin-off series with a focus on adventure and story with a variety of merchandising, such as cartoons, toys, etc. But Sonic at the core is a video game series, so obviously the Sonic Boom games are going to be the central focus, and unfortunately, due to all the misconduct that I've already discussed, this led Sonic Boom to be an even darker stain on the franchise's reputation. Like I said in the beginning, if you thought Sonic 06 drove the Sonic series down the path that not even I could follow if I had better standards back then Sonic Boom would drag the series down even further. It took until Christian Whitehead and Simon Thomley's Sonic game, Sonic Mania, to get the franchise to where it needed to be. It may be going back to the past, but I can't think of a better place to go back to, especially when you're trying to reboot a franchise and instead you screwed that up by making something that isn't a reboot. So after the games flopped, the cartoon running for 2 seasons, and Sonic Boom being reduced to a mobile game, the Sonic Boom brand just ended. After the cartoon and the mobile games, that was it. Though there was some speculation that Sonic Boom would make some appearance for the franchise's 25th anniversary, no appearance ever happened. I mean, there was Fire and Ice, but that wasn't considered to be part of the anniversary. The original Sonic franchise would continue its infamous legacy with Forces, only to finally gain some traction with Frontiers, Superstars, Prime, and of course, the movies. But I can't say much as I left the series in 2017. Fan games will continue to be released for better and for worse. The Boom brand will be made fun of by the community time and time again, but other than that, Sonic Boom faded into obscurity. People hated the games but loved the cartoon. As for me, I didn't hate Shadow Crystal, I liked the first season of the cartoon, and I didn't give Rise of Laird, Fire and Ice, or the mobile games a chance. I was done. And when Sonic Forces released, I don't want nothing to do with this series anymore. If all Sega wants for their own flagship series is to have a greater focus on money and not delivering quality products and experiences, then clearly they have no grasp on their own property if they found unfinished products acceptable. And when it hits rock bottom, they damage control and either find their niche that works for Sonic, like in Colors and Generations, or they seek assistance from the outside, which resulted in Sonic Mania. Sonic Boom may have stained an already stained franchise, but after the release of Sonic Mania, Sonic Forces, and conducting my own research regarding the franchise's history and development, it became clear to me. The Sonic franchise is the worst franchise I've ever experienced, and even though I have my fair share of enjoyment, frustration, memories, and honest impressions, I had to leave, and I'm glad I did. There's potential in this series to be great, even in Sonic Boom with this approach of adventure and story, but reality constantly reminds me this one crucial fact when it comes to creativity and profits. Vanity overwhelms modesty because of the desire for wealth and recognition. And in context of the Sonic franchise, whether it be mainline or spin-off, that is why it fails. That is how Sonic Boom, even after a decade, will always and forever be known as one of the biggest disasters in video game history. You know, as alright as the cartoon is, what killed it for me was that Justin Bieber episode.
I got a bold confession, and I think it's time you know I'm into you, specifically girl, and no other girl will do.
Cut this out of your life.
You can handle when you use your mind. Mr. Fast got it good, but this ain't his neighborhood. He's taking over. No. Time is now. He can't hide. Find the power deep inside and make it happen. Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom. Gonna keep you running faster. Save the planet from disaster. Spinning through a world in motion. Take it all the way.
Sonic Boom!